All right, guys, so we're back again with part 2 of the Q&A series here. I took your guys' questions on social media, so I'll be answering 5 more questions that I thought were, extraordinary and more beneficial for everybody to actually learn. So here we go. Okay, so to avoid Achilles injuries, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're gaining active mobility inside the ankle joint, working on things like passive end range holds, controlled articular rotations of the ankle joint, working on progressive and regressive angular isometrics. Now, all these exercises are FRC principles. I'll have the link below so you could actually see exactly how to do that. But once you can establish new mobility, then you want to start working on strengthening up the tissue surrounding that ankle and surrounding that Achilles. So working on the soleus and the gastrocnemius, the muscles of the calf, working on the anterior tibialis, doing these in higher volume sets with, toe raises and heel raises, things like that. That'll actually help drive that strength so that you can move in multi-directional patterns without hurting, your Achilles there. After that, I would say do this for about 3 to 4 days a week. Once you get strong and you feel strong in the lower legs, then I would start to work on low-level plyometrics, multi-directional movement patterns. So you can do lateral bounds, linear hops, things like that that'll help strengthen up or have eccentric strength put into the joint there as well to help strengthen up the tendon of the Achilles, but also make sure you're stable in your ankle entirely. So I'll also put links down below so you can see those movements as well. So for that, like I said, you want to work on mobility first. Try to gain an active range of motion. You want to work on flexibility, so stretching out your calf, stretching out your anterior tibialis. That's going to help as well. Then once you do that, you want to make sure that you're strengthening up those movements by strengthening up the muscles surrounding the tendon itself by doing those toe and calf raises. Then from there, you want to work on low-level plyometrics to work on eccentric strength to strengthen up the tendons and joints surrounding the ankle and the Achilles itself. Hope that helps, man. Check the links below. Thanks for your questions. Yeah, so depending on the type of cardio you are doing, I don't know exactly what you are doing, depending on if you're trying to optimize your performance or just get a body fat burn. Primarily what you want to accomplish is getting in more calories than you are losing in a sense. But if you're doing 4 to 5 days a week of cardio, that's probably going to be less beneficial than you would do maybe say 3 to 2 times a week if you're trying to gain a massive amount of muscle, right? So you're utilizing, your fuel sources and also your muscle mass to push through a cardio session when it may not be necessary. Now, if you are performing or trying to perform for a specific sport and you need that conditioning aspect, and I understand that. So your basis would be trying to put in adequate amount of calories, primarily coming from carbohydrates, to spare muscle protein, but also so your body can utilize the glycogen for fuel and not your muscle. So making sure that you understand your basal metabolic rate is going to be key. Understanding where your resting metabolic rate is. So how much calories you're actually burning at rest and how many times a week are you training and burning those calories. So you want to make sure that you're taking in an adequate amount of carbohydrates, primarily from either white rice, sweet potato, some type of white potato, things like that that's easily digestible, but also can give you that fuel for your workouts and also spare that muscle when you're doing your cardio. So like I said, I would try to bring that cardio down maybe 3 to 4 times a week. Like I said, I don't know exactly what type of cardio you are doing, but if you're trying to gain muscle mass, I would limit the aerobic work and the slow, steady state cardio, and I would start doing more of aerobic or anaerobic or aerobic alactic work or anaerobic work to help with sparing of muscle tissue, but also burning of body fat. And then it can also give you that conditioning or that cardio aspect, that gain you'll get from that, from a performance benefit and also from a health benefit as well. So hope that answers your question. If you have in more detail, if you could DM me that entire question on Instagram and what exactly you're trying to accomplish there, that would be more helpful for me to answer your question. But thanks again. with my fighters, I utilize FRC principles in a standard linear progression, 1 day out the week, just because of time restraints. I only have my fighters for at least 2, maybe even 3 times a week. So, that third day is going to be primarily, structured around mobility, more so for recovery and also gaining that control of the body and the active range of motion throughout the entire body. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that they are getting all base positions, working on controlled articular rotations, and also I'll give them homework to do from a CARS perspective every day so that they can gain that active range of motion, get that body moving each and every morning to get ready for training. And also before our weight room work and in our warm-ups, I'll make sure that we're doing some type of CARS or controlled articular rotations in the joint capsule that I know that we'll be working primarily in the weight room. And I'll do that, maybe I'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes on that. Now, if you have a client or athlete that actually truly needs more mobility work than anything, you can work on either a daily or weekly undulation model, and I would do that with your pales and rails contractions in base positions. So you can fluctuate intensities and volumes throughout that training split. So each day or each week, depending on what you want to do. And I would work on 3-week pendulum waves in those base positions so you can actually see progressions there. 3 to 4 times a week would be optimal, and make sure that they're doing their CARS or their controlled articular rotations each and every day. Thanks. Okay, so since I have a limited time frame with my fighters, I only train them around 2, maybe 3 times a week at most. I make sure that we're running on a concurrent model so that we're getting both sides of the spectrum, weight room work and conditioning. So for me, once they start camp, they're going to be working primarily on anaerobic and alactic capacities. So the weight room work is going to be also predicated towards the conditioning. So I work off a time frame. So if they, let's say a particular set lasts around 6 to 10 seconds in the strength phase, then their conditioning is going to last about 6 to 10 seconds, keeping that alactic capacity high, working on that so you're not throwing the organism in 2 different directions, working on 2 different bioenergetic demands where you will not get a stimulus adaptation, especially in the strength portion of the movements or in the exercises or in what we're trying to accomplish from a modality standpoint. So I like to keep it the same time frame depending on when we're training or where we're at in camp. And then once you get closer to camp, if you want to work on some lactic interval circuit type style training, if they really do need it, I don't find it necessary anymore. I used to do it, but they get a lot of that in their skills training, especially in grappling and sparring, and it's more sport specific. So you're getting closer to the competition, which I'd rather them do more sport specific conditioning to elicit more adaptation towards the sport. But if you absolutely need to, I would make sure that you're taking that time and separating that from your weight room work, because once you get closer to the fight, we're primarily working on explosive power and maximal speed. So you want to make sure that you're separating that so you're not throwing that organism in 2 different directions and you're maintaining that stimulus response in the weight room. So if you're going to do it, let's separate it around 6 to 8 hours either after or before, or you can do it on the odd day or the next day after. To help with maintaining, a stimulus response to the strength work or the explosive power, and you're not clashing with those bioenergetic demands, so that you can get the most out of each session and most out of each modality. So I hope that helps, man. If you have any more questions, don't be afraid to DM me or hit me up on Twitter or here on YouTube. Thanks. Okay, so this is a 2-part question, so I'm going to answer one at a time. So for the first question, my resources are going to be American Journal of Sports Medicine. If you're trying to read up on new studies and new journals, this is definitely a spot to go to. Strength and Conditioning Research.com, definitely good stuff there. You can check out the Instagram. He has a lot of infographics on that as well. And then for combat sports, I would definitely say FightCampConditioning.com. Corey Beasley has a lot of good content out on his website. He has a podcast, he has articles. I've written a bunch of articles on there. Also have a program, Fight Strong, that's a 6-month program that you can check out as well. I'll put the link in the description below. And then I'm going to be a bit biased and say FightScienceInstitute.com. We're coming out with our seminar series starting August 11th. I think that me, Tony Ricci, Dr. Corey Peacock, and Chris Algieri has combined, with experience and knowledge of the sport and of science to give you the most information that possible so you can help your combat sport athletes perform at the highest peak. And then for your second question, let's go into advice for young up-and-coming strength coaches. I would say be patient. Learn as much as you can from people that's been in the industry. Network with those higher level coaches. Get real world experience. Get that experience inside the weight room, on the floor, coaching several different athletes in different sports, not just in one sport in general. And also make sure you're working with general public. I think that helps a lot. When I started, I did some personal training, and I trained a bunch of different people, and I think it helped me develop a coach's eye. It helped me with the art of coaching, how to read people, how to talk, and how to get people involved in certain situations and have them buy in to your training methodologies or your principles. So that's primarily what I would say for the young guys and girls trying to get into the industry. Just get experience and learn from as much people that that's been there as possible. And that'll help you with your entire coaching going further. Thanks again for your question.